Hey everyone, welcome to the InvestorBet Super Bowl 60 betting preview. Coming up tomorrow, we have the Seattle Seahawks against the New England Patriots. This is the rematch of the 2015 Super Bowl when New England came back to win against Seattle 28-24. They scored 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, and the game was obviously underpinned by the infamous Malcolm Butler interception with 20 seconds to go. The Seahawks, trailing by 4, had the ball, second and goal at the 1 yard line. Enough time to effectively run 3 more plays if they needed to. They had Marshawn Lynch at the running back, who with 3 attempts definitely would have got there, but instead they went for the pass and Russell Wilson was picked off, and New England went on to win that Super Bowl. They also went on to win in 2017 against Atlanta in one of the biggest comebacks of all time, and then they won again in 2019 against the LA Rams. All of those with Tom Brady. This is the first time that they've been into the Super Bowl and playoffs since 1997 without Belichick and Brady. Seattle, they only won their previous Super Bowl in 2014. So just over 10 years ago. Both teams this season are 14-3 in the regular season, so have identical records. Now, in this video, I'm going to go through everything you need to know if you're betting on the Super Bowl, from the strengths and weaknesses of both teams, how they match up against each other, where the edges are, and how each team could potentially win this game. I'm going to go through who I think is going to win and the reasons why, the final score, and player prop bets that I like for this matchup. So, starting with the location. So they're playing this game at Levi Stadium in San Francisco. That's the home field of the 49ers. It's technically a neutral venue, but it definitely favors Seattle as it's the home field of the 49ers, which is a divisional rival of the Seahawks. So that means that they play there every season. They've played there for the past 14 years, and their last game was just back in the week 18, so the final week of the regular season, where they beat San Francisco 13 points to 3 in a low-scoring game. They also met San Francisco in their first game in the divisional round of the playoffs and won that 41-6, but this time it was at the Seahawks home venue. Recent experience just playing there a few weeks ago. New England, they last played there last year. That they lost that game 30 points to 13. That was with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. It was only a couple of games after the Drake May took over the quarterback role for New England. Weather-wise, it's cloudy, low wind. It is humid and 16 degrees, so nothing major. We're not going to have like snow that we saw in the Patriots last game against Denver. No wind or anything that can affect passing, and no rain expected for the game. So it should suit both teams, as both teams are strong passing sides. We've got the top 2 passing yards per attempt and completion teams on offense, and also Seattle are the number 1 pass defense per attempt and completion as well. Now, this is the first Super Bowl appearance for both quarterbacks. You've got Sam Darnold for the Seahawks and Drake May for the Patriots. Drake May in his second season, 23 years old. Then Sam Darnold, he's been around the traps, played for the Jets, Carolina. He also played at Minnesota last season, and then this season with the Seahawks. Coach-wise, Mike McDonald is in his second season with the Seahawks, and obviously brought the team right through to the Super Bowl after taking over from Pete Carroll. Then you have New England, Mike Vrabel in his first season at the Patriots. He was previously the coach of the Tennessee Titans, and he took them to the playoffs in 3 of his 6 seasons in charge. So far this season, firstly with Seattle, they won the NFC West division for the first time since 2020. They also are the NFC Conference winner with the best record. They set a franchise record with 14 regular season wins. As you can see in the stats either side of me, the Seahawks are ranked 3rd in the NFL in points scored, averaging 28.4 per game. And then defensively, they're the number 1 side, conceding just 17.2 points per game. During the playoffs, they defeated the 49ers 41-6 in the divisional round, and then outlasted the Rams 31-27 in the NFC Championship game to secure their spot in the Super Bowl. They are on a 9-game win streak heading into this match. Their last defeat was back in Week 11, which was against the Rams, 21 points to 19. Then for the Patriots, a few more things to talk about for them. They finished first in the AFC East ahead of the Buffalo Bills. In Mike Vrabel's first season, it's a 10-game turnaround from what they did last year, which is tied with an NFL record. So massive improvement by the Patriots this season compared to last. There were big odds at the beginning of the season to not only make it this far, but obviously also to win the championship. On offense, they're averaging 28.8 points a game. So basically on par. We've got two of the top three offensive sides in points for going up against each other. And then the Patriots allowing 18.8 points per game on defense, which is the fourth best in the league. They went on a 10-game win streak from week 4 through to week 13, lost against Buffalo, then have won 6 straight matches since then. Zoom out after a little bit of a scratchy start to the season where they lost 2 of their first 3 games. They've now won 16 of their last 17. The caveat to that, and the real big talking point when you match up these teams, is the Patriots have had one of the easiest schedules in NFL history this season. It's more luck than anything. That's what ends up happening, but it definitely is a cause for concern. So from the 14 teams that they face during the regular season, now with the NFL, you have to play your divisional matchup teams, which the Patriots are in a pretty easy division. They only have Buffalo in there, who's a genuinely decent team, and then Miami and the New York Jets. So they basically have 4 games that realistically should be winning games out of those, and they split the matches against Buffalo. But then outside of that, other games in their conference as well, and then the teams that they faced from the NFC, it just all worked out that they basically, throughout the whole season, they only faced 3 teams that made the playoffs. Pittsburgh, who they lost against 21-14 early in the season. As I mentioned, they split the games against Buffalo 23-20, and then they lost 31-35, and then they beat Carolina back in week 4 42-13. Carolina ended the season with a losing record. So if you look at it, Pittsburgh and Buffalo were the only opponents during the regular season that the Patriots faced that ended the year with a winning record. Most of the teams finished last in their divisions, or at best second or third placed in their division, and had 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 wins. They were all in that range. And you can only beat who is on the field in front of you, the team that you have to beat. And New England have done that, so you can't knock them for beating the teams. And they've had a few big wins throughout the season. But now against Seattle, it's a significant step up in competition. Also, probably should note that the majority of New England's opponents this season have sacked their coaches over the past few weeks due to the fact that team severely underperformed, or at least performed below the expectations of what the head office wanted of that side. So we've looked at the regular season now, looking at the Patriots playoffs. They've played 3 playoff games and they've won all 3. So you can be like, well, they've beaten 3 playoff teams here, so technically doesn't look all that bad. But when you just break it down a little bit deeper, the teams that they've played. So they played the LA Chargers in the wild card round. They won that 16-3. But LA, their offensive line was really badly injured. They were missing key personnel, and they struggled to generate points on offense and generate yards in general. They only had 207 for the entire game. And New England did need 381 yards to score their 16 points there against the Chargers. Little bit of a question mark around that game. Then they beat Houston 28-16. This was a bit of a turnover-a-thon game. Houston also were without their number 1 receiver in Nico Collins, who was out with a concussion from the week prior. And Houston also lost their tight end, Dalton Schultz, early in the game. Got injured in the first quarter, ruled out in the second quarter. And the Patriots started that game. Their offense was good early, and they just kept Houston out of reach for the rest of the game. And particularly when you're missing those weapons in the passing game, it's very hard to chase points, especially when you're on the road as well. In the conference final leading up to this matchup, they played Denver in Denver, and on paper, just on the face of it, it's obviously a good win, but Denver lost their quarterback, Bo Nix, the week prior to a leg injury, so therefore they had very minimal passing game. It was also bad conditions once the snow hit, so it would have been tough conditions anyway, but if you take the quarterback out of a side at this stage of the season, then it's extremely hard, especially if you don't have a high level or at least experienced backup to come in and take over the role. And it was only a 3-point margin for the Patriots winning that game 10-7 against a genuine backup quarterback. So just overall, the Patriots have gotten the job done. You can't knock them for that, but it's just been very smallish margins, or they've had a lot of luck go their way through the season that they've had. And sometimes that's just what it takes to get to this point, and you can still win the Super Bowl, and you just have that blessed run through, and that could definitely still happen. Strengths for these sides. So firstly, for Seattle, they're the number 1 ranked defense. So that's going to hold them in very good stead in this matchup. They're the best run defense in the league. And as I mentioned, they give up the least number of passing yards per attempt. These are the 2 key stats on defense. They can stop the run, and New England's run game is okay, but it's also not really that great either. They're a little bit more reliant on the passing game. And then for stopping the passing game, they've been very good at that as well. They're also one of the best zone coverage defenses as well in the league, and very good at putting pressure on the quarterback. So expecting Drake May to find some pressure here. The key for Seattle with Sam Darnold as quarterback, he's had a very good season overall. He's eased up a little bit in the later part of the year compared to what he was doing earlier. But the key for him is getting that offensive line pass protection. If he gets that, then it gives him time to hit the receivers like Jackson Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp, who are having very good seasons overall. Jackson Smith-Njigba leads the league in receiving yards and also was the offensive player of the year. The other thing for Seattle is they're a very good first down team. They're ranked 2nd in the NFL on the first down, so that should allow them to play more so on the front foot on offense, as opposed to getting in situations where they're 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10 or 2nd and 15 and that kind of thing, and getting backed up and being forced to make big plays. They also have an overall strong turnover differential and aren't a heavily penalized side either. So those 2 things will hold them in good stead. Strengths for the Patriots, their pass offense is very good. They do have, their running game isn't bad. I shouldn't have said that they don't have a great running game. It's solid, but it's just not top tier, if you know what I mean. And it's just a question mark, considering the opposition that they've played, is whether that's going to hold up against the Seahawks and not an undermanned or non-competitive team that they've been facing. The strength of New England on offense is being able to convert when they get into the 3rd down situation. So instead of having to punt the ball away and give the ball back to the opposition, they're able to generate a first down and keep the drive going. The concern with that is they're going up against Seattle, who are the number 1 team on 3rd down conversions for the opposition defensively. So they're the best at stopping teams converting those 3rd downs. So you have a very good matchup from that perspective. You're watching the game and you see the Patriots getting into 3rd down and those 3-and-out situations, then that's a huge tick there for the Seahawks. But if the Patriots are able to keep on converting those 3rd downs, then they're really winning that battle. And I just feel, looking at the stakes in this match, it's going to be very unlikely for those numbers for the Patriots to hold up here. I think Seattle will win that battle with the pressure of the environment and all of that. It's hard to hit those. So the key for New England is to be able to generate shorter 3rd downs. They need to be in like the 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4. At best, they can't be getting into 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10 kind of situations. Weakness-wise for Seattle, so looking at the flip side, their offense has been inconsistent on a rushing perspective. They don't have huge rushing numbers. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet have just been that little bit inconsistent, but Kenneth Walker has really picked up over the past couple of weeks, and he really led the team against the Rams in the conference championship. I'm so expecting him to have a good game. Another thing for the Seahawks that they haven't been doing as well lately as they were earlier in the season is the explosive plays. Saw throughout the year many a times big passing receptions that turned into touchdowns that were 40, 50 plus yards. They haven't really been doing that. They've been playing a little bit more of a conservative approach in the playoffs, which you would expect, but they've also haven't been hitting those big plays as much. Defensively, their one vulnerability is against tight ends, where they concede 67 yards per game, which is 29th in the league. So that's definitely a concern. That brings Hunter Henry into play for New England. They also concede the 28th most quarterback scrambling yards. So there's a chance that Drake May picks up yards on the ground, which he's been doing quite well recently, and this is going to bring into the player props we'll get to very soon. Weaknesses for the Patriots. They've been a little bit slow at getting games underway. Throughout the year, they do allow points on the first drive for opponents, so that could potentially put them on the back foot early. They also haven't really been that great at putting quarterbacks under pressure. So if Darnold, which I mentioned is one of the keys for the Seahawks, he's able to get good protection, then it's going to be really hard for the Patriots to stop that Seahawks offense, because when he has time, he can hit the receivers. It's very hard when the quarterback has time, and when you have receivers like Smith-Njigba, Cooper Kupp, and so on, that you're going to be able to keep them covered for long enough, and that'll get the Seahawks offense rolling if they're able to pick up those completions. And then offensive-wise for the Patriots, aside from the situations where they've had short fields, which was applicable especially in the game against Houston, and they haven't really had a great offensive production during the postseason, which just concerns me here going again. Basically, full strength Seahawks side, which is the best defense. Now, keys to winning for both sides. I just got a few dot points here. What it comes down to, because the reason I do this is when you're matching up sides, you want to really see what needs to go right for teams to win and where things can go wrong, so then you can make your betting decisions based off of that. The key for Seattle is to firstly generate pressure defensively on Drake May. If they can do that, he's obviously only in his second season and under a lot of pressure here. If by this defense, if they can do that, then it's going to go a long way to stopping and limiting at least the Patriots' passing game. Patriots are ranked 29th in protection, so the matchup there heavily favors Seattle to be able to pressure Drake May. So he's going to get flushed out of the pocket and going to have to run those kind of situations if that trend continues with these sides. There's also, Drake May has been sacked 15 times so far in the 3 playoff games, and with him being put under pressure, it also limits any deep ball opportunities, throwing the ball downfield and picking up big yardage. And when he's under pressure, he can have a tendency to try and throw the ball into a danger zone, which could result in interceptions as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks pick up at least 1, maybe 2 interceptions in this game. Sam Darnold, the key on offense for the Seahawks is just to avoid turnovers and play basically mistake-free football, no fumbles, no interceptions, especially in their own half. And then the other thing, and everyone knows like Sam Darnold, that history of turnovers and everything, but I think that changes here, and they've been good so far. I'll get to the stats for this in a second. The other big thing for the Seahawks in terms of winning this game is to get the run game going behind Kenneth Walker, exactly like they did against the Rams, and that will keep the Patriots offense off the field, which will keep them fresh when they need to be out there. It'll also start to tire the Patriots defense. So they're able to get that going early. Expect them to also use Kenneth Walker with a lot of short passes as well, like that's been really working for them lately. And also if they can get Jackson Smith-Njigba going early, pick up a couple of catches in the first drive or in the first quarter, then that really starts to give them confidence and stretch the Patriots defense. For New England to win this game, it's the opposite. The New England offensive line has to hold up, protect Drake May. They can't afford Seattle to be getting so much pressure towards him, but I do think it is going to happen. They need to get the run game going and not get in those 3rd and long situations and try and beat the number 1 third down conversion defense. They need to put pressure on Sam Darnold and get him back into those turnover-prone tendencies that were early in his career and kind of interrupt the passing game, because that's definitely one of the key factors for the Seahawks. And I think with New England's passing game as well, I think they really need to utilize Hunter Henry against Seattle's 29th ranked tight end defense. Like, they've been having good success throughout the season. Stephon Diggs has been Drake May's number 1 target throughout the year. But then in the playoffs, Kayshon Boutte has been having a very good playoffs campaign so far. But Hunter Henry hasn't seen as many opportunities lately as he did earlier in the season. Potentially, this is the time that they turn to him, because I don't think they're going to be able to generate enough yards just using the wide receivers. So I think he needs to have a good game in order for New England to be winning. And at the end of the day, probably the most important thing for an underdog, and we have seen some upsets in the Super Bowls in recent years, is them to capitalize on red zone opportunities. When they get down to that end of the field on offense, they can't just get held up and then take a field goal. They need to be able to utilize those opportunities, because they'll probably only get about 3 red zone opportunities in the game. So if they get held up to a field goal on 2 of those and say score a touchdown in the other one, then you're starting to look at a situation where they're not getting enough points. Or even if there's one where they get to the red zone and then turn over the ball or something like that, and they need to convert those opportunities. So my prediction and how I'm approaching betting on this game, I think if you haven't already got the feeling of what I've said so far with the way that I'm going, I think overall with more so home field advantage here, overall stronger form leading into this game. They're healthy. They have the better defense that should limit the pass. Number 1 per attempt and completion defensively, and also least yards per attempt from the rushing game for the opponent. Seattle, assuming they don't make turnovers in this game, particularly in their own half, they should win this game fairly comfortably. I'm expecting them to win by at least 7 or more points. I really feel this is a 27-17 type scoreline, somewhere around a 10-point margin. New England has been trending with their turnovers. The only thing I feel brings Seattle undone is turnovers, and especially in their own half. New England has been the one recently having the turnovers. They've had 5 in their last 3 matches during the playoffs. Seattle haven't had any in their last 3 games. So that's definitely a positive, and hopefully that doesn't turn around here. The only caveat to Seattle not having any turnovers lately is they're playing New England, who force a lot of turnovers. They've forced 13 turnovers across their last 6 matches. So that's the key for Seattle. As long as they don't make mistakes, all their other areas match up to the fact that they should win this game. So I think that's the way that I'm more than happy to go here. So my bet will be on Seattle to be winning this game. If you're wondering about the handicap, generally I never lay more than 2.5 points on a line in American football, just due to the fact that once you have a lead, you don't necessarily need to keep on putting the foot down and extending your margin or anything like that, especially with how the game's won. Games are played. Teams, once they get a lead, become more conservative. Not that the handicap is that high, but I always refrain from especially laying more than 7 points, so anything more than a touchdown. But generally, it's only in really polar opposite matchups of team quality that I do that. But most of the time, it's under the 2.5 or just on the money line. Long term, in my opinion, that's the better way to bet on American football. For the totals, I'm always cautious playing totals in playoff games, as what happens in the first quarter can completely swing the momentum of the game. For a long time, been first half unders, which for this game is 23.5. So they've set that number just above 3 touchdowns. So 3 touchdowns and a field goal, assuming all the extra points are made, would get you the over here. But first half unders had been a really good bet, as usually teams are cautious on offense in the first quarter, play a lot of safe plays because they don't want to turn the ball over, give up a interception touchdown or a pick 6, or make a mistake that the other team can capitalize on, because you're not going to win the game in the first quarter, but also you could let it get away from you, and then you're playing the other 3 quarters from behind. The past few years, though, this has changed a bit. First halves have started to become a little bit higher scoring, but I think both teams here will be wanting to back their defense in. There's obviously a significant strength of both sides and will be fundamental to them winning. So I would lean towards the unders slightly. The full game unders is 46.5, just with both defenses being strong, especially with New England. I think there's a chance of them ending up with a few 3-and-outs and having to punt and that kind of thing. The concern with the unders is both teams' strength on offense is the passing game, and if they lean on their strength on offense, then that can cause, the passing game generally constitutes itself to higher scoring matches, because also every time the ball hits the ground, then the clock stops, as opposed to lots more running plays. The clock keeps on running at the completion of that play. A lot more time is chewed up when teams are more heavily running the football. For me, for this game, I'm staying away from the totals. That's just my thoughts on it. The other thing that could potentially favor the overs is both teams or both quarterbacks have been known, whether recently or in the past, for giving up turnovers, and that can allow opponents to rack up points quickly. So that's why I'm just staying away from the total, because I think there's a lot of different ways that this match can be affected from a scoring perspective, and I definitely prefer taking a side as opposed to a total here. Then with the player props, so there's 3 angles I like here with player props, and for the most part, regardless of the sport, my personal strategy is to focus my player prop betting around key players on a team. I don't really go looking for players that are not integral to the performance of their team. You're more of a player that can play a role, but isn't going to be the one that's being targeted or getting the ball when push comes to shove in key moments of a game. I like to surround my bets around players. Like in American football, the key receivers are going to get the opportunities late in games when they need the yardage. Like in basketball, oftentimes if it's a close game, the best shooter in that team is going to be taking the shots. They're not going to be giving it to a player off the bench or their 5th shooter on the court and that kind of thing. So if you're betting on points, then I tend to do my betting around those players. And obviously you have to be cautious. It's not just expecting that player to have a big game every game. You have to find the spots where they're most suited and that kind of thing. But that's a much more preferential betting strategy for me, because you don't want to be betting on something that a player is just not getting any opportunities. And we saw that in the Denver Patriots game. And that's why I bring it up, because Hunter Henry had a really important role to play against Denver, but he didn't really see that many opportunities. He dropped a pass, he had a short completion, and then when the snow hit, it kind of ruled it out, the amount of chances he was getting. And Drake May just either they rushed the ball, or he took off and ran it, which New England got the win in the end, but it was a close game. So that's why I just want to just be very cautious around which players and stuff, regardless if it's NFL or another sport. I think that's really important. But for this game, the 3 players that I'd like to focus on. Firstly, for Seattle, the running back, Kenneth Walker. He's been having a very big impact lately, and mentioned like he really got the Seahawks on the front foot early against the Rams a couple of weeks ago. So I'll be looking at his rushing plus receiving yard, as I'm expecting he'll be used in the passing game too, as New England struggle to defend this. They're okay at stopping the run, but they also struggle against stopping running backs picking up receiving yards. So I think Seattle's going to look to use that. And also, if early in the game, like there's a strong focus on stopping Jackson Smith-Njigba and stopping those passing options, then Walker can pick up those yards from the backfield out along the side. All season, I've had huge success backing Jackson Smith-Njigba on his receiving yards. For this game, he will be Sam Darnold's #1 target. And if this game is like remotely close, or if Seattle is trailing, then there's no way he doesn't get at least 10 targets in this game. Cooper Kupp can step up and pick up a few catches here and there, but if you look at Seattle's numbers on the season overall, they're just huge in favor of Smith-Njigba. He's had 163 targets to the regular season. It's nearly 2.5 times the next highest, which was Cooper Kupp, who had 70 targets through the regular season. And then if we just focus it on the playoffs, he's had 16 targets across the 2 games. Cooper Kupp has had 11. So they're the main go-to. I did also mention Kenneth Walker on his receiving yards. In the playoffs, he's had 7 targets for 7 receptions, so 100% catch rate, and picked up 78 yards from those passing, and he's picked up 78 receiving yards from those catches as well. So Jackson Smith-Njigba will also be a key bet for me in this game. And then from the New England side, I'm expecting Drake May to be forced to throw the ball. I wouldn't play the running backs, so Ramondre Stevenson or Travion Henderson. I wouldn't probably play them from a betting perspective in this match against the Seahawks. I think not only from a matchup perspective, but also a potential game script perspective. If New England are chasing points, Drake May will be forced to throw the ball, and I just can't see New England successfully getting the run game going. Like on a drive, they might, 1st and 10, they might run the ball on the 1st down, but then they'll need to pass. They'll only pick up 2 or 3 yards, and then need to pass on the 2nd and 3rd down. And so if New England's trailing as well, then they'll be forced to throw the ball more. So for Drake May, I'll be looking at his pass attempts, or I haven't fully decided yet, but the other option is going to be his passing plus rushing yards. He's had 65 or more in 2 of his last 3 games, and the quarterbacks have scrambled successfully this season against Seattle. And if that pressure does come through the middle, then he'll be forced out to the side and need to take off. So I can see him picking up a decent amount of yards on the ground based off how this matchup tends to play. Prop wise, Kenneth Walker's rushing and receiving yards, Jackson Smith-Njigba's receiving yards, and then Drake May, probably his passing plus rushing yards combined will be the 3 prop ways that I'll be looking to go. And then the Seahawks to win this game, and I'm expecting them to win by a touchdown or more. So those are my thoughts on the Super Bowl. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and it was helpful for you to make your betting decisions on the game. Definitely enjoy it. Remember, it's only the one game. Don't blow your bankroll on this one matchup going all in, because funny things can happen in these big games. It's like a grand final in the NRL or the AFL. Not always what you expect happens, and you don't want to give away profits you've made through the season on the final game. It's just one other game. And so for me personally, I also don't care to bet in any of the prop markets on what color the Gatorade is, or how long the anthem goes for, or what all the other little novelty markets they have for the Super Bowl. Yes, if you want to bet on that, treat it just as an entertainment bet and not part of your overall strategy. Like, this bet you're putting on the game is part of your overall strategy, and if you want to throw some money on something just for some entertainment, treat it as such. Really appreciate you guys watching. If you like betting on sports and horse racing, definitely make sure you subscribe to the channel, because there'll be lots more videos like this analyzing sports and races so you can make the best betting decisions and consistently profit every month.